Hello and welcome to Radiant Moments, a J&B podcast. I'm Michelle, your host, and today's episode feels extra special because we're stepping into the world of one of our own community members, a heartfelt story that needs the right setting. As I record this, the rain is falling outside and there is a storm rumbling overhead, and I can't think of a better day to sit back, get comfortable, and share this journey together. Sometimes stories like these call for a shift in our usual pace, a quieter, cozier moment. So, wherever you are, I invite you to settle into a cozy spot, maybe with your favorite blanket or a warm cuppa, and let's create this space as if we're sharing stories by the fireside. Today, we'll be stepping into Rita and James's world. This story is one of resilience, connection, and the strength we find in even the most challenging caregiving moments. Rita's journey with James speaks to the heart of what we do as caregivers, and I feel honoured to share it with you. So take a deep breath, settle in, and let's embark on this journey together. In our previous episode, we touched on the importance of emotional regulation and how caregivers can quickly shift from feeling overwhelmed, stressed, or frustrated to calm and centered in under 90 seconds. Today, we'll be diving into the heart of one of our community members' caregiving experiences. We'll explore what it looks like to support an adult through a medical journey on a day-to-day basis, the challenges, the victories, and the emotional toll it can take. This carer's story offers insights into the complexities of caregiving for an adult loved one. From managing appointments and treatments to navigating the emotional landscape that comes with it. Before we begin, I want to emphasize our commitment to maintaining the confidentiality and anonymity of our community members. In this episode, we'll be referring to our supported adult as James and the caregiver as Rita to protect their privacy. At J&B Inspired, we take great pride in creating a safe, respectful, and open space where our community members can share their stories with confidence. Rita's story is one of resilience and deep love, but it's also a reminder that caregiving is a journey filled with both light and darkness. Through it all, she keeps her happy hat close, drawing strength from the past to carry her through the present. And as long as she has those memories, she knows she will keep going one day at a time. This is Rita's caregiving journey. As a caregiver, Rita juggles a multitude of responsibilities each day, caring for James, who has been diagnosed with frontotemporal degeneration, a form of early onset dementia. This is a disease that impacts not just memory, but also speech and executive functions. I asked, as caregiver, what portion of your day is typically allocated to caring for and supporting James? Rita's response to this question highlights the all-encompassing nature of caregiving, especially when it comes to supporting a loved one like James, who has frontotemporal degeneration, which I'll refer to as FTD, and primary progressive aphasia, which I'll refer to as PPA throughout this episode, an early onset form of dementia. Rita says, I'm not sure I can break my day down into time frames. It's a given that consciously and subconsciously, I'm aware of him and alert to his needs even in my sleep. This isn't just a sentiment. This is Rita's reality. Her role as a caregiver is not one with clear starting and stopping points. It's continuous, whether she's physically assisting James or simply being attuned to his unspoken needs throughout the day and night. As she explains, James's needs are unpredictable and rigid at the same time, depending on his daily routine and how his condition manifests. Rita shares a potent example of how James's routine shapes their day. James would be the lesser of the three I care for, as he still remains somewhat independent, but only as long as it involves his daily trip to the mainland for his milk, juice, and egg and lettuce sandwich. That routine is vital to James's mental stability. Any deviation from it sends him into a kind of physical body exhaustion that results in needing to sleep as his brain cannot cope with the disruption. For James, small changes can cause immense fatigue, and for Rita, ensuring his routine remains intact is part of the emotional and physical balancing act she performs every day. This example illustrates how a day that might seem simple to others, a trip for groceries, a mundane task, becomes a lifeline for James's well-being and cognitive health. It's not being dismissive, Rita adds, but James's brain is rigid in its routines. Beyond the daily trip, James' condition, FTD, and PPA, affects his ability to find words, a task that can take an agonizing 3 to 5 minutes per word on difficult days. Rita is patient, never rushing him, allowing him the dignity to find his words rather than finishing his sentences for him. It's a balancing act between time, patience, and motivation, especially when his cognitive abilities can shift from day to day. Motivating him to write things down while he still can is a priority, she explains. Time, patience, and energy are all needed as she helps James with the tasks that once came so easily to him. Tasks like working with wood, fixing things, or building. James's world is slowly closing in on him, and Rita feels an enormous responsibility to help him stay engaged in the activities he once loved. He needs to be part of the everyday world, she says, and it's her job to ensure he remains an active participant despite his condition. But completing tasks is difficult when James's short-term memory loss pulls him in different directions. As Rita explains, lots of things distract him or catch his eye. From the moment James wakes up to the time he falls asleep, Rita's brain is alert and supportive, always guiding, always reminding, and always helping him stay on task. It's as though she has to constantly push him gently forward, ensuring he feels the sense of accomplishment that comes with completing the jobs he takes on. For Rita, the hours blur together in a continuous flow of support, patience, and attentiveness. Even the seemingly independent moments, like when James drives, are still underpinned by Rita's mental awareness of his well-being. She is always there holding space for him, helping him remember, gently nudging him to finish what he starts. The caregiving never really stops. This reality of caregiving, of always being on, is one of the most profound truths in Rita's experience with James. It is a never-ending cycle of care, both conscious and subconscious, demanding resilience and deep emotional strength. For those caring for adults with cognitive conditions, this is the reality, constantly navigating the needs of your loved one while remaining ever vigilant and emotionally present. But how do you maintain dignity and purpose in the face of such decline? Rita deeply believes that keeping James's brain engaged is key to his well-being, even as dementia takes more away from him. It's about making sure he still has a purpose, something to look forward to each day, even if it's something small. We may not be able to control the disease, but we can control how we approach each day. Caregivers often face an uphill battle when it comes to maintaining their loved one's dignity. As their abilities fade, the temptation to do everything for them can be strong. But Rita knows that giving James's responsibilities, no matter how small, helps him feel useful, important, and valued. James needs to be part of the world, even as it closes in on him. I encourage him to do as much as he can, even if it's just small tasks. His mind is fading, but still there, and as long as I can, I'll help him use it. One of the hardest things Rita admits is watching someone you love lose their independence. Every day, there are little losses. It's heartbreaking, but at the same time, I try to see it as a chance to love him even more, to show him that I'm here, that I won't leave him behind, even as he loses himself. Let's take a moment to reflect on a powerful part of Rita's caregiving journey, her goals, dreams, and hopes for the future, both for herself and for James. In Rita's own words, her goal is clear: to keep James using his brain, to keep him thinking and to keep him going, even on the days when he doesn't want to. For her, the future isn't something she dwells on too much. Rita has learned to embrace the present, knowing that the unpredictability of life with a neurodegenerative condition like FTD can make future planning feel overwhelming. Instead, she chooses to focus on each day as it comes. Each morning brings new possibilities, new challenges, and new victories, no matter how small. Rita likens the hurdles of each day to something you simply jump over together. There are no perfect days, but for her, the key to survival is to face them, one by one. In this process, she's learned the value of presence, the importance of today over tomorrow. James's disease may slowly take parts of him away, but for now, Rita is determined to keep him mentally engaged and active, to preserve the essence of who he is for as long as possible. She gently pushes him to think, to interact, and to remain involved in the world around him, even when he doesn't want to. This persistence reflects her deep commitment to keeping him connected to life. Yet Rita's caregiving goals extend far beyond the here and now. She doesn't just care for James in the present, she's actively working to preserve his legacy for his children. James is the father of 6, and despite his growing challenges with communication and memory, Rita knows that his love for his children is steadfast. Even if there comes a time when he can no longer recognize their faces or remember their names, Rita is fiercely determined that his children will never forget who their father was. In fact, Rita's goal is to ensure that James's children don't just know him, but they feel, deep within their hearts, the boundless love he has for them. She wants them to carry the knowledge that their father, despite his struggles, is still a hero, someone whose unwavering love for them is part of the very fabric of who they are. Rita's role, as she sees it, is to be the bridge between the man James was and the man he is becoming, preserving his legacy for the next generation. For Rita, this is about more than just caregiving. It's about honoring James's legacy and ensuring that his love endures, even as his cognitive abilities fade. She understands that while he may not be able to express that love in the future, it is still there, powerful and unchanging. Her mission is to protect that love, to safeguard it, and to make sure his children never lose sight of who their father truly is. Now let's shift to the emotional core of Rita's experience, her deepest fears and concerns as a caregiver. Rita's fears run deep, as do the fears of so many caregivers. Watching someone you love slowly lose the ability to communicate is heartbreaking. Rita worries about the day James will stop talking altogether, as his speech becomes more and more limited. She fears that the distance between them will grow. James has always refused to learn sign language, and writing is becoming increasingly difficult for him. She has started taking photos of things James does throughout the day, hoping that one day these images will help him to communicate when words escape him. One of Rita's biggest concerns is James's ongoing battle with severe headaches, a common symptom for those living with FTD. Despite the pain, James refuses to take any medication. As an adult, he has the right to make his own medical decisions, but it leaves Rita feeling helpless. She's unable to force him to seek help, even though every instinct in her wants to protect him from suffering. This constant conflict between respecting his autonomy and her desire to alleviate his pain takes an emotional toll on her. When asked how she copes with these challenges, Rita pauses. For her, caregiving isn't about coping or resilience in the traditional sense. It's not how her mind works, she says. James has been a part of her life for over 35 years. They've shared everything: friendship, love, heartbreak, marriage, separation, companionship, and through it all, they've remained each other's constant. In Rita's eyes, caring for James now is simply the next chapter in their shared journey. To her, resilience isn't about strength, it's about love. James was her protector when they were young, and now the roles have reversed. It's her turn to protect him, to be his shield in this new, uncertain reality. In her words, above all the roles we've shared through life, we are and always will be best friends. It's that bond, one built over decades, that carries her through even the darkest moments. That deep friendship, more than anything else, is what keeps her grounded, present, and focused on what matters most. Rita's story reminds us that caregiving is not just a role, it's an act of love. And that love, more than anything else, is what sustains her through the challenges and the fears that accompany the caregiving journey. Rita recalls a specific incident where her role as protector was tested to the limits. It was during a routine assessment with a psychologist who had little understanding of James's personality or the nuances of his condition. The psychologist was determined to speak to James one-on-one about his time serving overseas. What they failed to understand was how this would trigger James, especially given the disorganization of the session and the psychologist's lack of understanding and familiar knowledge of James and his background. James, as a veteran who had served in Somalia and Timor, had endured experiences that left deep emotional scars. These experiences shaped him into someone who valued structure and predictability, two things that were glaringly absent in this appointment. Rita had already sensed James's rising agitation as the psychologist continually failed to stay on schedule and lacked the insight necessary to approach James in a way that would keep him calm. James does not have patience for time wasters, Rita says, reflecting on the day. He knew almost instantly that this person had no idea about his world, and that frustrated him deeply. As Rita waited outside the room, it wasn't long before she was called back in. Just 2 minutes, in fact. The situation had escalated, and James had turned from cooperative to enraged. The psychologist, clearly out of their depth, was facing what Rita described as a raging bull. James was furious, leaning over the desk, towering over the now flustered professional, making him visibly uncomfortable. Rita knew she had to step in immediately. She entered the room, her heart pounding, but her face composed. This was one of those moments when a caregiver's calm could diffuse what might otherwise become a dangerous situation. I stood between them, not to block James, but to offer him a focal point, to bring him back to the present moment, Rita explains. I spoke softly, using his name, reminding him that we were both in this together. Gradually, James's posture softened. His hands, once clenched into fists, began to relax. Rita guided him away from the desk, still maintaining her calm, allowing him to breathe through his frustration. After a few moments, he stormed out of the room, leaving the psychologist visibly shaken but unharmed. It was a moment that left the psychologist stunned. Rita recalls the professional's entire demeanor shifting. Gone was the arrogance of believing they knew best. I could see it in their face, she said with a wry smile. That realization that the caregiver, the person who lives beside the patient, knows them in a way that the professional never could. Rita often reflects on this moment with a sense of pride and even a little humor. I sit back sometimes and chuckle to myself, she says. Why on earth would a professional ever believe they know the patient more than the person who has walked with them through every step of the journey? This moment highlights not only the complexities of being a caregiver, but the deep, intuitive bond that caregivers have with their loved ones. It's a reminder of the importance of advocacy, knowing when to step in, when to protect, and when to ensure that your loved one's voice is truly heard. So how does Rita manage burnout and prioritizing self-care? For caregivers like Rita, one of the greatest challenges is managing burnout. While being an advocate and protector for a loved one like James is crucial, it's equally important to find moments of self-care, although Rita admits this hasn't always been easy. James goes away every second weekend, Rita shares, and that gives my mind time to rest, one less person to be alert for, at least for a little while. Self-care is something Rita has only begun to embrace in the last 6 months, after realizing the toll constant caregiving was taking on her own well-being. I've started a routine where on Mondays I go to brunch with my mum. It's just a few hours to breathe, to let go of everything for a little while, she says. My mum is my sounding board. we laugh together, and sometimes I even let myself cry. It's a moment where I can be me again. These small moments of connection, whether with her mum, music, or her own quiet time, are what help Rita recharge. It's a far cry from a full day at a spa, but it's what's getting her through. I know self-care isn't just about pampering yourself. It's about doing what you need to keep going. For me, that means taking a moment to reconnect with the people I love and the activities that make me feel human again. As James's illness progressed, Rita discovered that navigating the caregiving journey meant learning a great deal about herself, as much as about James. One of the most powerful pieces of wisdom she's learned along the way is this: find your happy hat. On the journey from diagnosis, especially with dementia, I've come to realize that no matter how hard things get, you have to find a way to hold on to the happy moments. These moments that remind you who the person was before the illness took so much away, Rita explains. It's like putting on a hat, your happy hat, when things get difficult. You look at them and remember the best days, the laughter, the joy, and the love you shared. No matter how challenging the present may be, those memories bring you back to a place of joy. For Rita, finding her happy hat means looking at James and remembering him not just as the person he is today, but the person he was before dementia took its toll. I look at him and remember the protector, the friend, the one who always made me feel safe. I put on my happy hat, and in those moments, the caregiving becomes lighter. It's still hard, but the love and the memories make it bearable. Rita emphasizes that one of the most important things a caregiver can do is to always remember that the person they are caring for is still there, underneath the illness, the confusion, and the decline. They're still a person, and they need to feel needed, important, and useful. Even if their abilities change, they can still have responsibilities, and they can still contribute to their own lives. It's up to us as caregivers to keep them engaged, motivated, and talking about the things that matter. For James, staying involved in the daily tasks, whether it's completing small chores or talking about his past, this has been a key part of maintaining his sense of self. We talk about his family, his dreams, and what life was like before. I try to keep him thinking, keep him present in those memories, and give him responsibilities that make him feel like he's contributing. Dementia takes so much away, but I won't let it take away his sense of purpose. Rita goes on to say that this journey is not for the faint of heart. Dementia isn't an easy road, but it's a road we're walking together. We pre-planned as much as we could when James was first diagnosed, from losing his speech to handling the inevitable aggression, and even his end-of-life journey. We talked about it all so that I would know how to honor his wishes when the time came. One of the most surprising things James said after his diagnosis was, "I don't give a shit. I'm going to die. What the fuck do you want me to do about it?" While this response might have been jarring for others, it was perfectly in character for James. That's how he copes, by putting it out there bluntly. It made me laugh because, in a way, it's so typically James. Even when the world feels like it's falling apart, there's still a thread of who he was before dementia, that stubborn, fiery part of him. Rita's message to other caregivers is this: don't ever lose sight of who they are to you. Yes, they may not be the same person they were before, but your memories of them will make the journey easier. Hold on to those memories because they are a lifeline through the hard days. Rita's story serves as a powerful reminder to all caregivers. While our roles as advocates, protectors, and companions are vitally important, we must also find space for ourselves in the journey. In our next episode, we'll explore the importance of building a caregiving support team. We'll discuss how a strong network of family, friends, and professionals can provide emotional and practical support to ease the caregiving burden and foster resilience. Thank you for joining me on this deeply personal journey today. If Rita's story resonated with you, or if you have your own experience to share, I'd love to hear from you. Remember, You're not alone in this journey. Until next time, stay radiant, stay resilient, and keep shining your light bright.